what about, a lot of people have said, I mean, I don't know if this originated with Anderson Cooper. Someone originated the fact, they say Andy Cohen is like the modern day Andy Warhol, and that has taken legs. What do you feel about that statement, knowing both of these two people?
I sort of think Andy Warhol would have loved reality shows and would have been doing one, and he would have loved TikTok, would have been doing videos. So I could sort of see that.
And
Again,
Andy,
Andy would have liked it. That's my mantra. Andy would have liked it.
he probably would have loved Andy Cohen, right?
I think so. He would have been doing portraits of Countess Luann and all those people. Absolutely.
I kind of think so, and been hanging out with them and wanted guest appearances on the Real Housewives of New York. And
Absolutely. And Kardashians.
what about, we have like Dumois has like such a career now, the blind item, like you really kind of originated the blind item also.
Yeah, it's really a way to put information out there that is so risque or so outrageous that you can't use names. You will get sued. But you can kind of finagle it so that you put in some hints and people can guess. And it was my most popular type of column because people love the interactive element of it, and they would beg me for the answers. I would just say they're all Courtney Love. All the answers are Courtney Love.
Always Courtney Love. I mean, and to me, you really like the whole like Michael Alig thing. I mean, that was picked up in Page Six. Like that to me, really, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I remember, that really was because of you in knowing these club kids and being in that scene and doing this blind item.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, Michael had called me. He was a mess and he had been fired from Limelight and he just sounded so out of it. And I asked around, and when I wrote that up, I mentioned that there was a missing person on the scene. Then 2 weeks later, I did the blind item where I talked about the Drano and the body in the Hudson River and all that stuff. And New York Magazine had done an item. So Page Six put all that together, made it their lead item. And that really is what catapulted the story. My lawyer was very nervous, like, don't, we have to make it blind. But people knew based on the context of the previous write-ups and the buzz. Page Six didn't even ask me, do you mean Michael Alig? They knew who I meant. So it was a dark, dark, horrifying story. And it was not just an end to a life. It really pretty much killed nightlife for quite some time. It was very uncool to be a club kid after that.
Did you have any thoughts on like when he got out of jail and then his passing, or nothing, no emotions regarding that?
Mixed feelings, because I can't deny that I was part of it. I had my name on the invitations, but I was always his harshest critic. So I kind of had a double edge. I would celebrate what was good about it. I would go on the talk shows, but I would also point out that Michael Alig was kind of spiraling. He started out as a fun rebel who just wanted to shake things up. And through the years, as there were fewer boundaries, he started really going down and losing any sense of morality that he might have even had in the first place. But when he was coming out of prison, he actually had a publicist contact me and say, like, do you want to do an interview with him? And I thought, oh no, it's the same old Michael. So I didn't do it. And then Michael was hitting me up to get together with him. And at that point, I had moved my mother into my apartment and I was focusing on that. And I had such mixed feelings that I didn't necessarily want to get together with Michael. And then I ran into him on an independent movie set, and he was the same old person. He was flying on drugs. He was talking about his publicity. He was changing the facts of what happened. And I was like, creepy. But we ended up doing a scene together for another indie movie. And the director said I calmed him down, that I sort of mentored him. Our own banter, sort of our old chemistry came back during that experience. And then I got back on drugs and
wow. Right. I mean, you would think like we've all evolved. I mean, I'm certainly not the same person I was even last year at this time, but well, speaking of you being on the independent movie set, you've been in more documentaries and movies and, giving sound bites. Everyone wants to talk to you when there's like a lot of because of the VH1 stuff, probably too. But I mean, does that ever get old? I mean, I imagine you record hours and hours and hours, and then we all know how, at least I know how a soundbite works. And there you are with 30 seconds, and you're like, but I said so much interesting stuff.
It does. It really gets old. Yeah, I mean, first of all, they come to me because I've seen everything starting in the 70s, disco, and the 80s, the activism, the downtown boom, Giuliani as mayor in the 90s, and on and on and on, all the protests, all the celebrations, everything. And I was pretty sober, so I remember everything and I have a take on everything. But it's real frustrating when there was something called Gossip with Cindy Adams for Showtime, where I gave them a long interview. And this was during COVID lockdown. I thought though they went with all the precautions, but I still felt I'm sort of risking my life just to do this. That's how much of a press whore I am. And from what I heard, because I couldn't bear to watch it, they used 3 sound bites of mine, and they were all sound bites I could have said in my sleep. Nothing of the stories I told about Cindy and my relationship with her and our interactions and yada, yada, yada. And you start to wonder, is it really worth it? Last year, I was also in something about Janet Jackson. I was in something about Kids in the Hall. Now I want to focus on a documentary about myself, and that's what I'm working on.
I was going to say, I would ask that same question. Is it really worth it? I saw you in the Janet Jackson thing. I mean, we all know the Janet Jackson.
How long was I on? Like 5 seconds? I couldn't bear to watch it. 5 seconds?
Not very long.
Not even 5 seconds. Okay.
I figured you were going to have a big part in this. And I'm like,
I gave them a long interview.
Wow.
You have to piece it together and edit. I get that. But I feel they over film. They want to have backup, so they're going to use you for an hour and then they're not going to really use it.
Yeah. How is your documentary going that you're working on about yourself?
We're pitching it. And I think it's going to be good.
That's going to be great. And then are you going to continue doing all the talking head stuff on the side?
I'm going to minimize that. I really can't stand doing that anymore. I was recently asked to go on CNN and talk about different gossip topics, and I enjoy that because everything you say gets on. You're on live. But these pre-taped things are just beyond tedious. They don't pay. If they paid, I would just sit there for hours because it would be professional.
They don't pay. They do not pay. That is correct.
They don't.
Anything in pop culture today like shock you, like this new thing that just came out, I think like recently, like this woman, from TikTok, she's saying she had an affair with Adam Levine from Maroon 5. I mean, everyone speaks out now. Like, I don't know, do you ever give credence to things like that? Is it all just like, God, everyone's just a fame whore looking for their 15 minutes? Do you believe in like stuff like that when someone who's like not necessarily a celebrity has some story about some huge celebrity?
Well, apparently Adam Levine wanted to name he and his wife's baby after the stripper. So I said, well, now he has a son named Bambi. Right. In any case, what I'm amazed by from all this TikTok and everything stuff is there are so many incredibly gorgeous guys out there. I had no idea. Where have they been my whole life? And there are talented people out there. If people were horrible and embarrassing and cheesy, I would say, oh, this is horrible, make it stop. But there are people dancing up a storm, lip syncing, doing all kinds of things. There's a lot of talent. And I realize when I go on IMDb now to read movie reviews, I don't click on the critics' reviews. I click on the viewers, in other words, the people that subscribe to IMDb that just watch movies. Because it turns out everyday people, quote unquote, are brilliant.